Guys, have you been watching The Gilded Age? Because season 3 has just launched and episode 2 has just dropped, and the stuff that's happening in that episode, very interesting stuff coming up. So in season 3 of The Gilded Age, it seems to be primarily focusing on Gladys Russell, who is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Russell, who have just come onto the scene with new money. Now, with that stigma, their daughter is the key. What seems to be happening with season 3 is Gladys Russell is effectively going to get married off to the Duke. Now, spoilers if you've not been watching it, but what happens to Gladys, or will be happening to Gladys, is not uncommon for the period it's representing. So during the Gilded Age, which was between the 19th and early 20th century, a lot of people were coming onto the scene with what was deemed as new money. So people that were working in the railroads and various things like that, which is what happens with George Russell. The thing is, which is what happens with Bertha and George Russell, is a lot of people from old money really criticised them for coming up from new money. So what they used to do in order to be able to outshine the old money people was marry their daughters off. And they wouldn't just marry them off to anybody. More often than not, they tended to marry them off to dukes and princes from Europe who didn't necessarily have the money, but they had the title. And by having that title, it meant that they were going to be a lot better than the old money people. Effectively, it was an exchange. These girls would ultimately be called dollar princesses. So they weren't actually princesses, but they were coming in to become princesses or duchesses through their marriage. And in exchange, obviously, they were bringing money to their husbands. One of the most famous dollar princesses was Jeanette Jerome, who ended up marrying Lord Randolph Churchill, ultimately becoming the mother of Sir Winston Churchill. So just like Jeanette in the real world, I think that Gladys has actually been married off already to the Duke without her consent, and it's all just to be able to get a title and a position and ultimately show off to everybody that, ain't my daughter so great? So yeah, the dollar princesses really took off during the Gilded Age, and it did go into the early 20th century, but ended by the time of the First World War, and also the popularity behind it really fell out of fashion. People were no longer interested. But there you go.